Let's do it. 4, 3, 2. Mike, take it away.
Okay, welcome back, Fett fam. Here we are in the place to be on a Saturday night or whatever night you're consuming this video cast. Our review of episode 4. I'd like to welcome Curtis Johnson to the chat. Curtis is in the house. We got Darren Chrysanthemum. Okay, there's always something new down there for us to explore with Darren. And then Darren's firstborn in the house, DJ or Darren Stevenson Jr. is in the house too. Good to see you guys.
What happened, DJ?
Howdy.
And here we are, episode 4. Let's jump right in. We're in the back to tank right out of the gate. You know, we start this episode and realizing I thought we were kind of done with the flashbacks. We were going to be wrapping those up. But I'm kind of glad that this episode was sort of the entire episode was pretty much a flashback. What were your thoughts on that? Darren, jump in.
I enjoyed this episode. These were all the little sort of story elements that I wanted to know about. And so I liked it. It's funny because we were talking last time and kind of laughing a little bit about this idea of this long journey that he's taking. And yet I loved it. He's back. He's
back on the Bantha.
Back on the Bantha.
Riding across the desert again.
Yeah.
8 hours and wherever it is he's heading.
Those moments where he's talking to it and feeding it, you know, it's like a Jim Henson's puppet, and I loved it. It's great.
There was some actual like little intimate moments there with the Bantha, little desert chicken going on there. You know, firing up some sort of roast on the spit. I have no idea what they were eating there, but you know, apparently the Bantha can eat that, whatever it is. I started thinking as he was feeding it like just a leg off of that roast or whatever it was. What do these things eat? They would have to consume large amounts of, you know, whatever roughage.
Yes.
And they're just walking around the deserts. How do they survive these things?
This is why we need Gabriel, because actually this is a big problem to me, because that creature is clearly an herbivore. And yet he's throwing a leg of some animal and
it's omnivorous. I was thinking maybe you throw that into the Rancor pit instead of the Rancor. If it gets hungry enough.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be able to be an herbivore, right? Like in that desert where there's literally no plant life. So it has to be.
I'm just looking at mouth and teeth.
No plant life, but somehow everywhere they go, there's plenty of wood for a fire. And I still can't wrap my head around that.
There's always a fire.
Leave it. Let's just move ahead. Leave it. We're fine.
Okay. So
actually, the thing is if
he's going back.
It was more realistic.
We can't leave it, Curtis. Darren's here. So that he's on the Bantha, he's riding through the desert, and it turns out he's got a destination. He's heading to the palace, and we get this view of the palace with the hangar down at the bottom there. And I thought that was the main entrance at first, but it turned out that was the hangar where the spaceships can come in and out. Not that Jabba had a ton of spaceships, but you know, they did have the barge and the little skiffs that, you know, were in the Return of Jedi episode. So here's the hangar. It's heavily guarded. He makes a comment that basically shows that he's been there before, you know, too many guards again, right? You know, so he's been here, he's scoping this out. Before we get to the hangar, like the specifics of the hangar later in the episode, we have this whole issue of his ship. You know, we know it must be in there, right? And it's what is the new name for the ship? Because my recollection, it's the Slave One, but now I think due to political correctness, it's been renamed. What is it called now? Fire Spray?
Firefly.
I'm finding it. Hang on. Yeah, it's the fire something. I think Fire Spray.
Well, now you can't Google that stuff, DJ. You have to come up with it in your own mind.
It was Fire Spray. I came up with it on my own mind. Which is the name of that class of ship. I think it's still called the Slave One as its name, but no one refers to it in canon anymore as that. It's just a fire spray class ship.
Is it okay if we call it the Slave One still?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, because that's that was the old school. That's how we grew up. That's the Slave One ship of the fire spray class of ships. So
Curtis, nobody wants to force you to leave slavery behind.
Well, that's fine because I don't know what to do with all these people.
Listen, this is okay. I understand like wanting to rename the Redskins the Washington football team.
Oh my gosh.
I'm fine with that, right? Because I could see a class of people actually being offended by that.
Yes.
Whereas just calling the ship a Slave One, it's just the word slave. I don't understand. To me, it's just let's move on. Slave One.
Anyone can be a slave.
Correct. It's an outer planetary kind of Star Wars, whatever. It's the Slave One. So he's eating desert chicken. He's eating desert chicken with a bantha, and he sees flares in the distance.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't sure, like, where did the flare? I guess Fennec, in her desperation, maybe fired those off.
No. That was from Mandalorian. So that episode of Mandalorian, they fired the flares off. Mando and that kid fired flares to disenchant in her night vision that she had to track them down.
Okay, so that was sort of okay. We got somebody jumping in here. Okay, there's Gabriel.
Hey, finally!
Thank goodness we have somebody. Nice job.
Well, we didn't know the names of the characters. We don't know what we're watching.
We have no idea what's happening right now.
Thank
like God, idiots. Gabriel's here.
I just stumbled in off the street. I don't even know who these people are.
Hi, DJ.
Hey, Gabe.
How's it going?
Good.
I'm very sorry for the wait.
Yeah, figure out your tech, will you? Get it together.
Honestly.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we're talking about the discovery of Fennec, where we see the flares and the tie-in to the Mandalorian there. That this was somehow, an allusion to a Mandalorian episode where they were trying to distract her because she had some night vision going in her helmet, and that's what do you know about that, Gabriel?
Yes, so that was in season 1, episode 5, titled "The Gunslinger," and that was when the Mandalorian and the bounty hunter wannabe, who needed to take out a kind of high-profile target, that being Fennec Shand, to join the Bounty Hunters Guild. So what this wannabe bounty hunter and Mando did in order to stop Fennec Shand is they used flash grenades and they launched them into the skies in order to blind Fennec's sniper scope.
Right.
And that's how they were able to catch her.
Cool.
Which is exactly what I said. I said that, but he said it better, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Gabriel, for filling us in about the tie-in, because I'm convinced at this point we're going to see the Mandalorian character show up in one of these episodes for sure. Right? These worlds are starting to come together. We saw it with the stormtrooper helmets last time, and Pelimoto, and we're starting to see these worlds are happening. It's starting happening at the same time. I'm sure we're going to see him at some point. What do you think, DJ? You think we're going to see the Mandalorian?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting close to the end. I don't know how the Mandalorian would tie in, though, is my only thing. Unless he's been doing
muscle.
What's that?
He's looking for muscle.
True.
Fennec Shand is like, if you got money,
does he go find Mando?
If you got money, we can get muscle.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because at the end of Mandalorian season 2, I don't know.
Season 2.
He was a little bit aimless because he had finished his mission with Grogu. So it might make sense that now he's going back to Yeah,
get
but-
him back in here.
Yeah,
Let's
might be
pull him
going back
in.
looking for work. He's got to make money. And yeah, it's looking like that's kind of what Boba Fett is doing now, is looking for muscle. So that would be a good tie-in.
We'll see. We'll see, right? It remains to be seen. He finds her. She's half dead, throws her on the bantha. And now, where you need an ambulance that can move at about 100 miles an hour, we're on a bantha that's going to ride us very, very slowly into town as this woman is just bleeding out on the back of his bantha. But he does bring her to what looks like sort of a Mos Espa, or are we in Mos? No, Mos Eisley, right?
Yeah, the outskirts of Mos Eisley.
Right, outskirts of Mos Eisley. But we get to see some of the mods hanging out outside of this tattoo parlor, or what looks like a tattoo parlor. And he throws her over his shoulder, brings her in there. Hey, aren't you a little too old, Pops, to be in here?
Can I jump in real quick? Because I wasn't here for the last time, so I wasn't here to talk about those guys, the mod people.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've been trying to figure out why I don't like them so much, and my initial thought was that they don't feel Star Wars to me. Like it's a little too clean. Like the go-karts they were driving are way too clean and shiny. But watching this next thing, it's a lot of cool ideas, but I think that my main problem is that they're on Tatooine, which doesn't match the aesthetic when they should be on like Coruscant, where you got all the cool neon signs and stuff. And they would be great on Coruscant. They just have them on the wrong planet. Like
right. And
they make
DJ,
sense in Star Wars. They just don't make sense on Tatooine.
DJ, the thing I brought up against that, or as a counterpoint to that, is they absolutely belong on Tatooine.
Okay.
Because it's basically a scrapyard filled with all sorts of all the debris that gets dumped from all of these galactic, encounters, and everybody's coming through. It's a gangster's paradise. You have all this stuff. And if you're young and on Tatooine, what do you want to do to stand out? You want to try to, trick yourself out as much as possible. You want to stand out as much as possible. And so for me, I kind of like it. I hear what you're saying, and Gabriel felt the same way, and Curtis felt the same way. But just as a counterpoint, I feel like this is a great, sort of representation of youth culture in a place that's very dark and dreary and bland. You have these big colors and these little spots of youth where they're kind of rebelling against that and creating their own thing.
That's a good point. I think that I think they just needed to, they could have done a better version of that on Tatooine.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it might have just come down to some decisions of making it a little too clean. It just I don't know. It didn't feel right for Tatooine specifically. But again, like if it's on a different planet, but I also agree that I love that idea. That's why I was trying to figure out why don't I like them, because I love the idea of them. I think you're absolutely right with the idea of the young Gen Zers coming in and doing their thing, the millennials, and the pop of color. That's why I was so confused, and I'm trying to put words to why are they? There's a dissonance. We had the
same sort of back and forth last week.
So I want to throw my name into that, but now I'm good. We can move on since you guys have had this conversation.
It's all good. So he goes in there. Fennec's about to die. He throws her on a table. Everybody's looking at him all sideways, and the guy's like, appointments only, and he throws a bag of money. He's like, yo, I got my appointment right here. And of course, as would happen in any back world tattoo parlor, the appointments go out the window, money talks, and he starts to go to work on Fennec. What did you think of that scene, Darren?
Loved it. It was interesting because I know people who are amputees, and the tools that he was able to switch out, that is the thing that is perennially promised to them. Well, we've got this new, better arm that we can give you that will have, different articulations, and they never quite work the way they're supposed to. So it was sort of nice to watch the show where, like, the idea of being able to just switch out tools.
I don't know if anybody caught it, but his the hand that he has on is like a battle droid's hand. The hand he has at first is an actual battle droid's hand, and then he gets his precision tools, his operator
surgery
tools.
hand.
That was cool. So the guy who plays that character is apparently a Grammy award-winning artist. He's a musician. He's a bass player. The black guy with the little mini dreads.
Yeah.
I think the soundtrack to that, he produced that as well. If you go back and watch that scene, the backbeat on that is also quite nice, as he's putting her back together and adding pistons and, machining her up. It's a cool little backbeat that's going on there. The guy who's doing the surgery produced that music.
That music, that's awesome. Yeah, it feels I also I liked the music. It didn't, again, like I'm with DJ, it didn't quite fit in the Star Wars universe, but I've been thinking about this all week. and the reality, like, I travel a lot. And so I can't tell you the number of times that you're in like a tiny little rural farming community when you have a stereotype of the kinds of people that are going to live in that community. But when you get there, there's always the kid in town who is a goth, and he's got blue hair and his black painted nails and his chains on, and you're like, well, you don't belong here, but of course he does. People are everywhere trying to express themselves in different countercultural ways.
So Curtis has dropped out of the call. The host is now the most, but he's the most somewhere else. But now
Darren's the host.
I don't know how that random act of kindness went your way, Darren, but we'll take it. So let's carry on. Boba Fett and now Fennec rebuilt with this machine gut. I love that line. The last thing, he's like, "Are you gonna seal her up?" And the guy's like, "And cover all this beautiful machinery."
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
cool.
I want to do that.
Yeah, it's lines like that where I'm like, I'm with all the problems I have with those characters, the core of them and the little lines, I love the idea of them.
Yes,
which is why I'm always so angry that I'm like, why do I have such a problem with them? Anyway,
I think you're gonna come around, DJ.
I already am with this episode. Like like it was terrible in the last episode, but this one kind of like, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get it more.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so there's sort of this campfire, once again, campfire.
Mm-hmm.
I saved you, you owe me, you have a life debt to me, right? Sort of thing. This is a theme that kind of carries on. There was in the Mandalorian, we had the same sort of thing. You owe me, you have this life debt, you got to pay it, and then you can move on with your life. And so now you're going to help me go and get Slave One, basically, right? And so they show up, they're outside the hangar again, but now he's got somebody that knows what they're doing, and he releases the bantha. Who promptly licks him on the face, which is great. Gabriel, what did you think? Did you think? Go ahead.
I thought that was a really good moment that actually kind of gave these creatures that we've always just kind of seen kind of in the background a little bit more depth.
Yeah, a little bit more life, a little bit more, and also just give him his freedom. There you go. You go off the dunes. Mm-hmm. And so now Fennec, he's like, okay, what are we going to do? How many people are in there? She's trying to ask this guy, what recon do you have to bring to me? You're asking me to do this difficult thing. Tell me what you've got. And he's basically like, I don't know how many guards there are. They come and they go. And she pulls out of her rifle that little drone, which I thought was one of the coolest things in the whole episode.
Right.
Yeah.
What did you think about that, Darren?
I love this backwards technology where they'll take something that is so much better than anything we could imagine having, but they don't have the ability to communicate it with it in real time. Like it doesn't do what my phone can do, right? So they have to, I love that they have to wait for it to do its thing and then come back and then holographically communicate what it saw. And it's a great, this is what, George Lucas in the 1970s imagined the future would be like. There's no internet. There's no way to communicate with this device or look.
But
look
Darren, actually, the drone that we saw in The Empire Strikes Back on Hoth was a much larger, robot that was coasting across the ice fields looking for the rebel base, right?
Right.
And I think, okay, why was it so much bigger? This is a much more modern kind of drone.
Yeah.
The one in Hoth was this monstrosity, but it's very cold. So you have to have something that's going to keep that battery warm. You got to have some housing, right? So
it's also been 30, 40 years since then. It's possible this is the newest model of
this
probe
is an
droid.
innovation. Very good, DJ. Yes.
Yeah.
So I love that callback. We have seen the drone, and Darren, a counter to your point, that drone was giving real-time information to the the Star Destroyers.
Well, maybe that's why it was so big, and then the little ones.
Yeah, it had that antenna system coming off it. It's a little bit better transmitter than this little guy. But I like that point about how it's still sort of throwback technology, right?
Yeah,
Where
like it can't send a signal, but it does know that it shouldn't be seen, and so it can hide.
Yeah, it's basically autonomous.
Yes.
She's not controlling it. The thing just runs through there all by itself, maps the entire palace. This is what I was going to say to Curtis. He finally got his map of the palace that he was looking for last week. Lifestyles of the rich and famous Tatooine.
Yes.
So they turn this little drone loose. They get the footage of the place, which was really kind of cool. I like that whole scene. And now they're ready to break into the palace. Again, Fennec is completely taking the lead on this whole thing, right?
Right.
DJ, what do you haven't been with us in the previous episodes. There's always this sort of feeling that Boba Fett's being carried through these episodes. Like, what did you think about the fact that Fennec is basically doing all the dirty work?
Well, they kind of, for at least the flashback stuff, they did throw in a line to kind of explain why he's kind of being carried at the moment, which is that he doesn't have his armor. He was basically like, I can't go ask Java for my shit back because I don't have my armor, and I don't have anything to back up a threat that I might give. So it's kind of alluding to that he is weaker without his armor. He needs that, even if it does a lot, but it's not like the most important thing. But I'm sure it's also a security blanket for him.
Yeah, he's not really fully Fett without that stuff. And
yeah, he's not as intimidating. He's just some bald guy in a robe right now. Like he's not the same presence without.
He does know how to use that gaffy pretty well.
He does.
He's pretty nasty with that gaffy.
Yeah, I love seeing him wielding that thing, because it was like such when that happened in The Mandalorian, when he was introduced and he was wielding this gaffy stick, all we had was our imagination of like, where'd he get it from? Why does he know how to use it so well? And now we're getting all the explanations and seeing him learning how to use it and being insanely good with it.
Exactly.
And it's like, and we know exactly where this is going when he takes out an entire platoon of stormtroopers with a stick.
Yes. And so Fennec is like, all right, let's get into this place. We're going stealth mode.
Mm-hmm.
Finds a little, sewer grate where rats might be coming in and out. And she's got that little handheld MIG torch where she just like cuts right through the iron bars and then kicks them in. And man, now they're inside the palace and they're in the caverns. And they find
Sorry to interrupt, but
go ahead.
But a quick fun fact actually about that is the same sound effect that they used when she used that Cutter spray is the same sound effect that was used when in episode 3 of Star Wars. It's the same sound effect that's used when Anakin beheads Count Dooku.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Okay. I got to find that clip so I can play them side by side in the edit.
Great.
So she cuts through the bars. They come up through a grate, and now they're in the kitchen. And we got that great little scene. Remember, Darren, we were talking about these droids making all this food that was
Yes.
prepared for that huge feast. And
Last
now we
week-
finally we get to see the droids in action.
Yeah, last week we were complaining. It's like this episode exists to fix all the problems with the last episode.
Yes.
They're like, where does all that food come from? Why? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, there's a whole kitchen full of droids that this is what they do. And okay, all right.
Yeah, you can really tell that these episodes, the Disney Plus shows, The Mandalorian and this and more going on, they're you can really tell that they're made by like real true fans of Star Wars, in the fact that they really think out every detail, and it's like something happens and you're like, why did that happen? They'll explain eventually. There's definitely an explanation. Someone has been sitting for hours thinking,
Yes.
okay, so he has all this food, where did he get it from? And it's like, well, we have to show it, obviously, because someone's going to ask.
And I love also the fact that they, we were talking about how they have different directors. And last week we called the director from the first and the third episode Danny Rodriguez. It's Robert Rodriguez. That's my fault.
Yes.
That's my fault. But Robert Rodriguez, I don't think is as good a director as the girl who did episode 2 and the guy who did this episode. I like the directing on this episode
Yeah.
better than episode 1 and 3.
Yep.
Episode 1 and 3, I feel like were kind of the weaker.
Yeah.
I liked them. I enjoyed them still, but 2 and 4, I feel were superior from the director standpoint. And it turns out that Robert Rodriguez actually plays a cameo as one of the Transdoshans. That's the lead Transdoshan that's at that sit-in that they have when they're all
Yes.
talking. That's Robert Rodriguez plays the lead Transdoshan.
Right.
But anyway, so they break in. We got the kitchen scene, and I love the whole General Grievous throwback where that
Yes.
one droid starts spinning the knives around, right? Wasn't that totally General Grievous, Gabriel?
Yes, sir. That was from the scene where he fights Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith.
Turns out even just droids that are, cooking dinner have that capability.
Yes.
Every day they prove that General Grievous was an interesting choice.
Yes. I gotta say, the stupid little droid that he ends up chasing around the whole
Yeah.
place.
I love
I
that
like-
they say it's the rat catcher droid. He's there to catch rats.
Is that
that's
right?
That's his job. Like, he comes in with a net and he's like
Oh,
looking like that. Yeah, because they had heard something, the droids, and they
You're
were
right.
like,
I missed
what was that noise?
Rats.
And they're like, it's probably rats. I'll go get the rat catcher.
I love that,
That-
DJ.
And then this guy comes in, this little guy with a net to catch some rats.
Yeah.
And then
It's
Boba Fett
brilliant.
just wrecks the kitchen trying to catch this little thing. Who knows why? Like I guess they think he's gonna sound the alarm or whatever.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the poor thing ends up almost peeing itself and turns itself off. They drop him in the trash. And
I
then
love the idea of that. It's just a switch in his chest that he
yes,
just presses and then powers down. It's like, now he's just off until someone presses the button again. He's
yeah.
I gotta say, I've been in some meetings where I wish I could do that. Like, where's my? How do I just shut down? This is the most boring business meeting I've ever sat in.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you wish that the other person had the button and you could just turn them off, because I've had
Even
I've had
better.
that feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
So they turn, once again, Fennec comes to the rescue because Boba Fett wrecks the whole kitchen, and then she just stands there in the doorway and he's able to grab it,
Yeah.
But Yeah, so they catch that little droid, off they go now. Can we go now? Right? Fennec. And then we go into the hangar scene where they're in the hangar, there's Slave One, and now it's okay, let's be quiet and get over there. And two Gamorrean guards bum rush them from behind.
Yeah.
I love this little tidbit or a starter. It's kind of the appetizer to this action sequence.
Yes.
The two Gamorrean guards that come in. Anybody want to tackle the hangar scene or talk a little bit about the hangar scene?
Yeah, I mean, I have a thought later about the ship itself, not necessarily the fight scene, but the fight scene itself was, I thought was a lot of fun. It was cool seeing the two of them work together to kind of solve the problem of the bad guys, even though, of course, Boba Fett runs off to the ship and Fennec's left to take care of everything again.
She did tell him to.
Yeah, she did, because she was like, I could take care of this.
Right. And
yeah.
Take care of it. She did.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, the fight was great, them getting into the ship. And then this episode a couple of times kind of proved to me that the Slave One is not a very well designed ship. As in getting into your pilot seat and looking straight up, and then you have to take off from there. Like he's like, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
And just like, it's like the fact that he has to maneuver this whole hunk of a ship lying on his back was very, very fun to watch him like just kind of struggle with that. And then later there's another scene where he's using the ship and it's like the problems with the ship are just laid bare for us to see.
Yes. Yeah. It looks cool as hell.
Exactly. It looks great when he's out in the
functionally-
open. But as soon as you put him in a confined space, which I guess the ship isn't supposed to be in a
would
confined
work
space.
much better in like a spaceport, an open spaceport. When
Yeah.
we see it in Cloud City, perfect spot for it to launch and land.
Yeah.
But when you have this enclosed hangar,
It's like a lot of Star Wars where it's like it looks beautiful, it moves interesting, it's super unique. You would never see anything like this. But you wouldn't see anything like this because most of the world is pretty impractical. Most of Star Wars is impractical, but that's fine because the entire thing is they've built this world around these really unique moving things that, like, why would you have a droid on two legs like C-3PO when there's much better ways to have a robot move? But it's like, it looks really cool and it's very unique. And as long as you don't think about it too hard, it just makes the world feel super its own sort of world.
And actually it's one of the things. I mean, there's two things. One is that I like that it mirrors in some ways the real world. Like I am surrounded by poor design decisions. There's like things in my car and stuff around the house where I'm like, why did somebody think this was a good idea? Because it just doesn't work at all.
Just think about the doors that you don't know whether you're supposed to push or pull. How many
can't even get
times
that
do you
right.
do the wrong thing?
Yes. And I like
We've all done it.
in Star Wars, or at least what they've been doing recently, is, normally in these movies, you have a thing that looks cool, but would not be functional in the real world or would have problems, but you never see those problems in the movie. In Jedi, we never saw the problems that actually would come along with a ship like Boba Fett's. But now I love the idea that they don't just hand wave it away, but they lean into the real world problems that a poorly designed ship actually would have.
Yeah.
Which is a great, it's lovely fan service. It's great.
And also it's with any good fight scene, or I mean any scene, but really in a fight scene that's laid bare is where you just keep introducing a new problem, you solve the problem as a new problem arises, and kind of this is a good unique way to introduce a new problem, which is I can't see anything, I can't get out of here, and then all right, how do we solve that? We got to shoot the chain to open the gate.
Well, let me just say and I credit the director on this.
Totally.
The sequence where she deals with a Gamorrean guard on the ramp outside of the, where the door is going to be closing. She deals with a Gamorrean guard, and then one of the other guards jumps on the bay there with her, and she's dealing with him. And as she's dealing with him, we get this shot of the counterweight hanging there. So anyone paying attention looks at that and goes, "Oh, that's how you open the door." So at the same time she's figuring it out, the audience is given a little clue as to how the door is going to open. And then she's like, "I got this, close the door." And so she deals with this guy. She jumps into the door swings around. And as it's closing, we get this great shot of her hitting that chain with a laser. As it's closing, we see her like sort of with this nod of satisfaction, like, got this. And the door comes down. I thought that was great directing.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome little finale to that action sequence where she was the star of that whole show. You're right. Slave One, Boba Fett was kind of, banging around, and she kind of chastises him once she gets in the cockpit. She's like, "Next time we need, let's stick to the plan." Wait a minute. You were the one who told me to go for the, I don't know what the plan was.
Yeah, she's quickly becoming one of my favorite characters just by them just making her a badass in every single thing that she does.
Yeah,
like she's always up for the task.
The back of that rifle is now we've seen a little blade come out of there to finish off Black Chrysanthemum, and we've seen this little, so she's also got some tricks up her sleeve, which is kind of cool to see that she's got like, so some little tools that, I'm wondering what else she's got in that rifle that will come out as the episodes come along. Okay. So now they're in Slave One. They've escaped the hangar, and we have this sort of moment of, you paid your debt, you're done. Where can I drop you off? And she's like, "You know what? Where are you going?" This is kind of fun, And he's like, "Okay, I got some scores I need to settle," and off we go to try to find the biker gang. Gabriel, what did you think when you knew? I knew at that moment where he was going. His first call to action. What were you thinking there, Gabriel?
So I also knew immediately what his next plan of action was gonna be. And let me just say that the scene where he massacres that whole biker gang is, I think, one of, if not the best scene of the whole show so far.
Gabriel
It's
approved.
so well done.
Yeah,
You heard it here first. Gabriel loves massacres.
He rips through it with the lasers. It's like just strafes them for a while, and then he throws that that seeking missile, whatever the heat seeking missile at the last group, the lead group.
Yes.
This is DJ, to your point about that it's a poorly designed ship. If you're doing air to land operations, this shows how effective that ship is.
True.
And the fact that you can stand up in the cockpit and see what you're shooting at, and now it's all in front of you, the infantry and the tanks and whatever you're going at. If you're going air to ground, that ship is made for that.
Yeah. And the guns are at surface level, basically. Like they're low to the ground. Yeah, that totally makes sense. You're right.
It's like an anti-personnel spaceship.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Well, it's a nice thing, and you see this all the time in the Star Wars universe. Is you've got a ship like that ship you could imagine was designed with a very specific military purpose in mind, but this guy, is now using it for everything. So it works extremely well for some things, not so well with others.
Correct. So his next order of business after he just strafes that gang, and we don't even see I was kind of hoping to see like a pan out of like the remains of that biker gang, but maybe we didn't need it. Maybe that would have just been gravy. because they were just done.
Yeah.
You saw bodies flying,
Yeah.
cartwheeling off of bikes. It was
Well, they got to
pretty
keep
clear.
their PG-13 rating. So if you pan out, you just see limbs everywhere. It's not very PG friendly there.
Wait, later in the episode, we see a Wookiee tear an arm off of a dude.
Yeah, true. As long as there's no
That's
blood,
bad.
it's not. You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. So his next order of business is go and get my armor, which I didn't realize was stolen from me by Jawas. And we get that scene where they hover at night over the Sarlacc pit, this still alive Sarlacc.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait, what are we doing here again? That's probably dissolved. And he's like, no, what's the name of the metal that the armor's made out of?
Beskar.
Beskar, right.
I almost beat him to it.
Beskar, it's in there, so he's determined and he's hovering and he gets that light. And this is one of the jump scares, right? This is a great little jump scare.
Oh.
How are you guys feeling? Did it get you when the mouth opens up and grab the ship?
Yes. Because I thought that from him burning it in the first episode in order to escape it, and I thought it was dead. So
not so dead.
Yeah.
Oh, you thought a little fire would take it out? No, you got to get a full
exactly.
bomb.
It's a big organism, man. That was just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
So that mouth comes flying out. Now, on one of our previous talks, I was glad not to see that mouth again. Because I thought that was one of the cheesier add-ons when Lucas made those additional CGI add-ons and we saw the beak coming out of the Sarlacc pit. I just didn't like that. I just thought it was cheesy looking.
No.
But I kind of liked it here.
Here it worked.
It worked really well here, coming out of the maw of that thing, hitting the glass. That was really cool too.
Yeah,
hit the glass
when she was on the glass,
yes,
and it's right outside trying to eat her.
That was a great little sequence.
Yeah.
Once again, Fennec, go ahead, Darren.
I was just going to say it reminded me of Alien, that movie. The way, the fact that it's dark, you're looking with a flashlight, you can't really see. You're not sure what's there, but it's organic. It's great.
Yeah, and again, I credit the director here, who just sort of delayed that to give you a little bit of time, and
it's dark, so we're squinting at the screen, trying to see things in it.
Yes. Are we gonna see his some armor? Or are we gonna see something that he's gonna go in there after, not realizing the armor's gone? There's all these questions going through your mind, and then he focuses in on that one little hole, and then it just immediately opens up, and it's immediately on the ship. I thought that was great. And then you saw the arms grab the sides of the ship, and he can't hit it with the lasers because, again, poorly designed ship.
Yeah, exactly. This was the other scene I was talking about, where it's they're just, this entire episode was them just pointing out things wrong with Slave One.
How come there's not a cockpit gun that goes,
Yeah, exactly. Just anything that could shoot something directly in front of you.
How about
you got to be far away.
Drive your spaceship into the maw of a beast that has tentacles that can grab you?
Yeah, I mean, I've also had a problem with that bomb he uses. Since they showed it in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, the bomb he uses where it's a completely horizontal explosion. Although now thinking about, so in space, that makes no sense because you're working on a 2D plane in 3D space. So it doesn't work. But now that I'm thinking of it, it's probably because this thing was made to attack things on the ground.
Right.
It works great if you're dropping a bomb onto a settlement. Exactly. So
you can wipe out 100 yards in every direction.
All right. Now I'm starting to come back on Slave One. I do like the ship.
I'm glad I
talked myself into it.
I'm glad I can reel you back in, DJ.
Yeah, you keep doing it, man. I don't know how.
It's an honor. So they survive it. He goes down in the pit, and we see Fennec pulling him out with a rope, and he's covered in juice, and he's wiping his head off with water, and she's like, "You need a back to tank." So if there's no other reason to go and kill Bib Fortuna and take over the palace, he's got his reason right there. He needs a back to tank.
Yeah.
And so they sit down around the fire once again. And I love the line that he has there, particularly because of our family and how we always talk about ourselves as a tribe. He has that line where he says, "You can only get so far without a tribe," because he's trying to convince her to come with him, right?
Yeah.
And I love that line, you know. And he's like, she's like, "Oh, the sand people made you weak," and he's like, "No, they made me stronger."
Right.
You know, you can only get so far without a tribe. He's trying to convince her to come with him, and I think he does a decent job, right? She's like, "I'll work for you," you know. She's on the fence, and then he's like, "I'll give you something that these other guys are not going to give you: loyalty, and I'll cut you in on any of the profits, etc." Right? So it's basically trying to make her his right hand woman. And you work for me, and we're gonna go far together. I love that little sequence there with that line. What did you guys think of that? Anybody?
I think you pretty much said it. Yeah.
All right, there we go. Let's forge on. So after he says that line of "you can only get so far without a tribe," he wakes up from the back to tank. And the droid comes forward and basically pronounces him healed.
Yep.
So it looks like this is the end of the flashbacks.
Yeah, because the only time that he gets the flashbacks is when he's being healed.
Right.
But also, like they finish the flashbacks too. Like we're caught up to present day in the flashbacks.
Right.
True.
Like that scene around the campfire was them right before they went to go find his armor, and we know what happens in that adventure.
Well, they even did like sort of a truncated where they kills Bib Fortuna and he's sitting on the throne and she's drinking that weird liquid. I don't know what that is, but Fennec's drinking in the background some blue gourd filled with liquid. But they're basically established now, and now it's like, okay, where do we go from here? You're healed, and then we cut to you know, a shot of Fennec coming in and saying, "Okay, you're healed. That's great, you know, but we're preparing for war. It can happen at any time." And he's like, "You know what? I'm going to go into town. I need to show my face." And she's like, "I don't know about that. Power hates a vacuum," and off he goes. Right? He's heading into town, and then we get Black Chrysanthemum in the casino. Somebody take it from there. What are we looking at here with Black Chrysanthemum in the casino?
You got it, Gabriel.
So we see him getting drunk in Madame Garza's cantina in Mos Espa, and then we see him eye these 3 Transdoshans. And as we know, the Wookiees and the Transdoshans are like ancient enemies. Both of their planets neighbor each other, Kashyyyk and Transdosha. And this just drunk Wookiee looks at these 3 Transdoshans who are just trying to have a fun time and goes over there and basically says, "You know what? I just feel like beating up people right now." So he beats up 2 of them and then grabs the 3rd one by the throat, I believe. And then Madame Garza.
Okay, he definitely starts mopping the floor of the casino with him. What I was wondering was, where's the security in this place? Like, where you know, it's a casino. You got to have some muscle in there.
Yeah.
Well, I think they with having remind me her name, Gabriel. Madam
Garza.
Madam Garza, having Madam Garza come up and basically talk to Black Chrysanthemum and just like diffuse the whole situation. I think that the reason there's no security there is because they don't need it, because she's there, and apparently she just has a power hold over everyone.
Yeah,
just
but
by being her.
Her policy is basically, if you wreck the place, as long as you don't pull the guy's arms off, we'll cover your tab. Just go.
Yeah.
Like that place should be getting wrecked on the daily basis if that's your policy.
Yeah, I guess that's a
You
good
gotta have
point.
some security.
And she really only partially de-escalated the situation because he still wound up tearing the Transdotion's arm off, which is
Look,
something.
raise your hand. Raise your hand if you knew he was going to pull the guy's arm off.
Yeah.
Come on.
Has
I mean,
to.
that was.
What
You
Yeah.
knew that was going to happen.
I didn't know that was going to happen because I didn't trust the writers of the show. And I thought that they were going to go the normal route, which is he stops and that's the end of the scene. So I was tracking it from like a lazy writer's perspective, and it was like, oh, hold up, what? So that blew my mind personally.
It was nice to see Jennifer Beals once again. She just stole
Yeah.
the show.
Oh, yeah,
Beautiful.
lady.
Comes in with her, her head tentacles and just,
Yeah.
waves her magic hand and still ends up the guy rips the arm off and pays for his own tab, gives her the money, and
Yeah.
marches out.
Oh, my favorite teeny tiny detail is she called him Santo, which I thought was just so it kind of showed their relationship a little bit of like she's already got a nickname for him, which I thought was funny.
Okay, that's cool. Right on.
Like everyone else is
Catch
using
that.
his full name, and she's like, Santo, come on.
Yeah.
And in the comics, before he was a bounty hunter, Black Chrysanthemum, I believe, was a gladiator, which they actually mention.
Yeah,
in
he
that-
was. Yeah, they're treating so after the after Disney bought Star Wars and they like did a clean slate of everything in canon, everything from there they're treating as full canon. This actually happened. So if it happened in a small comic book a couple of years ago, then it happened in this show. So he was a gladiator. They mention, hey, you were a gladiator before, and it's like, yeah, of course, because it is canon. Like they've
Yes.
got a lock on everything that happens since the Disney bought Star Wars is 100% in the world.
Yes.
Which
Awesome.
that attention to
So-
detail is great.
So then Darren probably couldn't get enough of patting himself on the back when Boba goes outside and enlists Black Chrysanthemum into his entourage. Darren with his hands held high.
Just call
Tell
me
me
the
about-
prophet.
One of your prophecies again coming true. Very good, Darren. We got Black Chrysanthemum in the fold. And the very next scene, they're in the palace, and he's got this sit down, mafioso style,
Yeah.
with all the 5 families. But this is the 3 families: the Aqualish, the Transdotians, and what are the dog guys?
They're called Clatoonians.
The Clatoonians. And it doesn't seem like it's going very well. They're like, what's to prevent us from just killing you and doing whatever we want to do, huh?
Yeah.
You bring us here, you feed us the sting, but and
On
so
the night
all
of my
of a
daughter's
sudden,
wedding.
yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, we see the Rancor grabbing the grate from below,
Yeah.
and they're all like, "Okay, we can talk. We can talk."
Right.
Great.
I like to consider how they got that timing so well. And I'm just like imagining in my head, they've got the Rancor Wrangler down there, like just listening to the conversation through the grate. And
Nice.
like, and then triggering and being like, okay, go, when they say like the perfect line just for dramatic effect.
For
But,
sure.
like, how else did they was that timed so perfectly? They
Yes.
were planning it from the beginning.
Danny Trejo is down
Yeah,
there.
just down
the
there,
little-
just listening to the conversation for dramatic
Yeah.
effect.
Oh my gosh.
And so the best he can do is basically convince these other families that, he approaches it. He says, listen, the Pikes are going to take over the planet. If you guys are cool with that, then just sit by and do nothing. But it's going to happen. So we should all align. And they're like, I'm making money here. Like, what do you, I don't want to mess anything up. It's all good. And he's like, the best he can do is tell them, just be neutral and don't don't be aligned with them, and I'll take care of it. I'll do my thing, and don't worry about it. I'm not going to let them take over the planet. And you know, what do you think? Is he going to be able to get this done? He says he's got credits to buy muscle. What's going to happen in the let's talk about our fetishes, the things we like best about the episode, and the things that we look forward to, maybe prophecies or the things we're looking forward to or we hope to happen in episodes to come. Who wants to start?
Well, I know one prediction, which is that someone's definitely gonna betray him from that table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who necessarily. Probably the one that kept talking up and being a jerk. That guy's probably gonna betray him.
The guys that run the spaceport,
Plutonians.
But yeah, thank you.
the Clitonians.
Mhm.
So I know that'll definitely happen because at the moment, like if he gets his way, it seems like he should be able to handle what's going on. But if you also have the Clitonians coming in and screwing everything up, then that would be the next problem for him to face and have to overcome, storytelling, et cetera, et cetera.
What was your favorite part of the episode? What was your fetish?
I think even though I had problems with the scene as a whole, if you took it as its own thing, the Sarlacc pit was a fun scene for me. So taken out of the script of the entire show and just showing me that scene, I think was a lot of fun. But I think just the whole taking Jabba's palace, getting the ship back, just had like all the new gadgets we got to see. We saw a few new versions of droids. They fought a bunch of people in a hangar while trying to get the ship out. We got to see the ship be a terrible design. I thought if you take that whole scene, I think that's definitely my favorite bit of the episode.
There was also, I don't know if you caught it, but as the ship was like spinning around and wrecking the hangar, there was like one of those original skiffs from the Return of the Jedi that got pushed aside.
Yes.
That was a cool little
Yes.
detail. A harken back to like one of those old school Jabba skiffs. All right, what about you, Gabriel? What were your fetishes and looking forward to?
My prophecy, or what I'm looking forward to, is that the muscle he might be thinking about recruiting is not only the Mandalorian, but we could see him possibly bring his old friend Bosk into the mix as
Ooh,
well.
I would love that. Yes,
Ooh.
any of the old bounty hunters, I would love to
Uh-huh.
see.
Yeah.
That'd be
Gengar
cool.
as well, maybe. But anywho, my favorite part is, of course, the massacre of the bikers, and how actually I actually don't completely think that the bikers were actually the ones who destroyed that Tusken camp.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be a good way to continue that story in the last 3
Yeah.
episodes as he finds out that it was a setup.
I mean, that would be quite nefarious for someone else to have done that and also spray painted the
Exactly.
symbols of that biker gang on the tents.
Yeah, good point.
Yes.
Why? Yeah. Why would it be why would it be anything other than a random killing?
Who
Like
are they trying to?
like
who are
they would
trying to
only
fool?
frame it.
Well, I think that the Pikes might have done it to eliminate having to pay both groups, because
Oh,
they could have went in and killed the Tuskens, framed the bikers,
Brilliant.
knowing Boba Fett was gonna go eliminate them, and then they don't have to pay anybody. And in this episode, Fennec mentions that those bikers do not have the strength nor the technology to take on an entire Tusken village. So that's just
I completely
my-
100% agree with you, and I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
put my name next to yours on that prophecy, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ride your coattails into that prophecy because that has to be that's brilliant. Like that.
I don't know. For me, it's like, why not just kill Boba Fett when he comes and visits them, demanding tribute? Like, it would have been a lot easier than to contrive this whole conspiracy.
Well, because that's what the Pikes are, right? They're not mindless killers. They've got a huge intergalactic
Yes. Syndicate.
syndicate. Yeah, this huge like moving parts and company that they're moving. They're not gonna get very far with their like business dealings if people know that they're just gonna get killed whenever they walk in with the group. And they're the people that would do this big plan, and because it fits so well with both of those groups. If you pit those groups against each other, then and they take each other out, then they don't have to pay anyone. When both of the groups were trying to get them to pay them,
Only 3 episodes left. Maybe not enough time to flesh that whole thing out. I'm gonna say no, but we'll see how it happens.
Well, they're going after the Pikes anyway. It would just be an added reason to a personal reason for him to take them out.
True. I like it, Gabriel. Good stuff. All right, Darren, what do you think?
Well, I'm still, my only prophecy remaining from the first episode is that the character, to catch up, DJ, I've been calling him customer service guy, the mayor's attache, the sort of fawning, subservient guy that crashed into the grocery cart or whatever in the end of the last episode. They did mention him in this episode at some point, but we didn't see him.
Yeah, he was singing like a something.
Yes, right.
Some alien that's used to sing in Jabba's palace.
Yeah. So my last remaining prophecy is that he ends up becoming part of Boba's entourage, and that has not happened yet. So I'm hoping to get him back.
He's assuming. In some ways, he is, because he's singing in the dungeon somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. He's in there as a prisoner.
I don't buy that one. Just because I don't see where he would fit in Boba's group.
I think he fits if Boba establishes himself as the new leader. Right, as the new, like installs himself in Jabba's palace as the
head of the family. I'm here.
Exactly, and
no
so this is my guy. That's
Godfather.
Exactly.
Well, do you think also that once Boba Fett becomes in charge, if that winds up coming to fruition, if customer service guy winds up approaching him asking for a job and Boba just winds up feeding him to the Rancor? Do you think?
I don't know. I don't see him dying. I see him.
Yeah, they wouldn't waste the character at the very least.
Yeah, I see Boba ending.
He's going to be in season 2.
I've got more important things to do than have to personally see people all day long. This guy will be the one that does it. I see it more as like an episode capper at some point. I did like. I loved the rat catcher robot, and I don't know if you guys noticed that he survived, right? When the Rancor came up through the grate.
He was there at the sit-in.
So somebody took him out of the trash and turned him back on.
Or it was just another version of the same type of robot.
Or it was the same, exactly, as a bunch of them. So yeah, that was fun.
So for me, the fetish for me was, I love that drone that Fennec used. I thought that was one of the coolest things in the episode. And the map that it produced with the enemies and, that holographic map that it created. I thought that was really kind of cool and fresh. And I also loved that line of, you can only get so far without a tribe. That was one of my favorite things throughout the episode.
Because that's new for him. Like he learned that with the Tusken Raiders. Like before that, he was I'm on my own.
He was a hunter.
Yeah,
he's a hunter. He's a solo guy. I do my own thing, like Fennec, and he's transformed her into part of his tribe.
Yeah.
And so he's got this tribe ethos going now, centered around respect, and he's pulling a variety of different constituents into that. So what I'm looking forward to is continuing to see how that fleshes out. Would love to see how the Mandalorian plays into that. And also, how those mod kids might actually be able to bring in other mod kids, that there might be a larger or expanding base of these
Sure.
mods that could come in and be a part of what he's doing, like getting the young people in Tatooine to all sort of work at the palace and work for him, regulating.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Well, this was a blast. It was so great talking about the episode with you guys. We got Darren, we got DJ, we got Gabriel, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week and we can bring back Tony and Curtis and Matt, and we'll just keep talking Fett. This has been
Right
fun,
on.
huh? All right,
All right,
guys.
guys, bye.
Okay, enjoy. Have a great week.